A few years ago, I was a student in a strange city, trying to make sense of my life while facing the most unexpected and terrifying experience. I was pregnant, and from the moment I found out, everything felt off. My body, once vibrant and strong, betrayed me. I couldn't keep down even a sip of water. Every day felt worse than the last, as if I were withering away. I was weak, my skin pale, and dark bruises appeared beneath my eyes, yellowing like the remains of a shadow. I could feel my life slipping away, as though I were a corpse walking among the living. The baby inside me seemed to feed on whatever little life I had left, draining me in ways I couldn't explain. I was raising blood, late, constant, painful bleeding, my body at war with itself. Everyone around me, especially my wife, to whisper about it. They said the baby was like something out of a Twilight movie, something unnatural, killing me with every heartbeat. But no matter how sick I became, I couldn't give up on it. I couldn't let go of the tiny life growing inside of me. Then, one day, the doctor looked at me with wide eyes, a look I will never forget. "Oh my God," they said, "I'm so sorry." My husband stood there, listening as they explained that if things continued this way, I would slip into a coma within a week or two. I would die. They told him in no uncertain terms that it would be my life or the baby's, but I couldn't let them take it from me. Not like this. I fought. I begged, even as the tears from my husband and the pleas from my mother went unheard. For months, I held on, hoping that something would change. I could feel the baby's heart inside of me, fragile but alive. The doctors finally told me that as long as the baby's heart wasn't affected, there was hope. It was all a plan, I think, to please me. But in the end, there was no more choice. I had to face what I never thought I would. The abortion came. It felt like I was giving up a part of myself. But more than that, it felt like I was being torn apart. I was only 18 or 19 at the time, too young to be carrying that kind of pain. The aftermath was worse than I could have imagined. Physically, I was shattered, bleeding and racked with pain for months. The emotional toll, the haunting sense of guilt, was even worse. I felt as though I had murdered something, torn apart a future that could never be. The depression was overwhelming. I couldn't forgive myself. I felt like a ghost, walking through my days, trapped in the memory of something that never came to be, the weight of it all still haunting me. After everything that had happened, I thought moving into a new house might help me escape the bad memories, but it didn't. The strange occurrences only grew worse. My husband and I, both not fond of tea, would often find a half-filled cup of it waiting for us in the morning. Neither of us had made it, yet there it was, steaming slightly, as if someone had just left it there. We'd look at each other confused, then move on with our day. But the weirdness didn't stop there. The electricity would go out for no reason, plunging us into sudden darkness, only to flicker back on moments later. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat. I felt a sharp, searing pain in my body, like a nail piercing my skin. But when I looked, there was no wound, nothing to explain the sensation. It felt like something inside me was trying to escape. I stumbled to the mirror, and there, in the reflection, was a giant, woolly creature with horns, a poisonous aura, and a twisted face. Its long beard swayed as it snarled at me, attacking from behind. I reached out, but it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. And there was more. My husband and I would go to sleep, only for him to wake up and find bite marks on an apple in the kitchen. It wasn't us. Neither of us had touched it. The trash would be moved, then left in the sink. My belongings, things I knew I hadn't touched, were gone, only to be found again in odd places when we returned. The shadows in the yard grew darker and more frequent. Beautiful, long-haired women, their silhouettes like fleeting ghosts, running from corner to corner of the yard before vanishing underground. The air was thick with unease. At night, the house seemed to come alive in ways that defied explanation. There were noises, dishes moving by themselves, pots clattering like they were being thrown against the walls. Screams and whispers filled the air, an argument in a language I couldn't understand, followed by the sound of jars breaking and something dancing. One night, we went to the unused bedroom, and when I opened the closet, I found it soaked, wet and bloody, as if someone had been hiding there. The room had never been touched before. It was like the house itself had been bleeding. The most terrifying event happened one evening when we had a guest over for the first time since moving in. My husband said something strange happened during the night. "I thought you were asleep," he told me, "but I felt your back on me, lying on your textbooks. I called your name, but you didn't answer. I turned you around, and your eyes were completely black and white. I was shocked. I don't remember any of it. I don't remember being there. It felt as if something else was wearing my body, something dark, something not me. When I woke up, it was as if nothing had happened. I returned to normal, but with no memory of what had occurred. It was as if my mind had been erased, leaving behind only a heavy sense of confusion and emptiness. The house, our new home, felt colder now. It was like I had no presence of mind, no clarity. I was disoriented, and it became unbearable. We had just moved into this house, hoping for a fresh start, but it wasn't long before the strange occurrences followed us here. Things were missing, and new, even more disturbing events began to unfold. One evening, while I was cooking, I heard it, a baby crying from the bedroom. I froze. The sound was so real, so desperate that I couldn't ignore it. Then there was laughter, children's laughter. Footsteps running across the floor, the kind you hear when kids are playing, and a voice, faint at first, then clearer, saying, "Mom, Mom." But when I rushed to the bedroom, the room was empty, silent. No baby, no children, nothing. At first I told myself I wasn't afraid. I had experienced so much, but the noises kept repeating, and it wore on my nerves. I began to feel nervous, unsettled. The house felt wrong. Every night, there was something new. The laughter, the crying, the footsteps. It was as if the walls themselves were whispering secrets, too loud to ignore. Then one night, my husband and I decided we couldn't live like this anymore. We had to take action. We started closing the door to the bedroom before bed, but the noises didn't stop. They only grew louder, more intense. We would lie awake, hearing the sounds of running, of something or someone playing inside the room. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the cold. It wasn't just a drop in temperature. It was a coldness that seemed to seep into your bones, an unnatural chill that filled the air. And there was a smell, strange and rancid, like something old and decayed. We couldn't figure out where it was coming from, but it was strongest in that room, the same room where the noises came from. The smell clung to everything, even to the sheets, the pillows. No matter how many times we cleaned, it returned. Eventually, we decided that we couldn't stay in that room anymore. We took to sleeping in the hall, as far away as we could from whatever was lurking behind that door. It didn't stop there, though. The noises, the cold, the scent, they intensified. One night, my husband heard a voice in the dark, whispering his name. But when he looked, there was no one there. We were no longer just frightened. We were terrified. The sound of the baby crying echoed through the house, heartbreaking and agonizing, as though the child was suffering an unbearable pain. The knocks on the door were relentless, pounding like fatal blows. My husband couldn't bear it anymore, the sound shaking him to his core. His walls were breaking down, his spirit weakening with each passing night. Our child, the one we had hoped for and lost, seemed to be trying to tell us something. Every night, he would wake from his nightmares, his face pale and terrified. He screamed that he had seen a child burning alive, its innocent cries for help ringing through the flames, while laughter echoed in the background. My heart shattered every time he told me. I cried with him, feeling his pain, his confusion, his fear. But he was always so sorry afterward. He apologized to me with disgust, unable to shake the horror of what he had seen. One night, as we were preparing to sleep, we closed the door as we always did, hoping for some peace, some rest. I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, and when I came back, I noticed the door was ajar. I stared at it for a moment, confused, before turning to my husband and asking, "Didn't we close this?" He looked at me, his face calm but puzzled, and simply replied, "Why? We didn't." I shrugged it off, too tired to care, too drained from everything to even think about it. We went to sleep, but sleep was elusive. The exhaustion weighed on me, but sleep refused to come. Instead, I lay there in the bitter cold, shivering despite the blankets. Then I felt it, the unmistakable presence of something or someone in the room with me. My heart raced and my body froze. A figure appeared in my blurry vision, a little girl with dark hair holding a pacifier. Her face was soft, sweet, innocent, but there was something off. Something disturbing in the way she stared at me. I felt the tremors in my hands, my jaw locking as I struggled to breathe, as though my body was fighting against the panic rising in me. I could barely make sense of what was happening. My husband woke up beside me, confused and frightened. "What is it?" he asked. But the girl was gone. I tried to explain, my words stumbling over each other. "I saw a little girl," I whispered, my voice shaking. "She was standing there, holding a pacifier." He closed the door, trying to comfort me, telling me it was just a dream, but I knew I hadn't been asleep. The coldness had been too real, the presence too vivid. My mind was still racing, still locked in terror. But then it happened again. The door opened, and this time, he saw her too. A little girl, standing in the doorway, wearing a pink shirt, the same one I had seen. Her dark hair shone in the dim light, but her eyes, they were empty. My husband jumped back, eyes wide with fear. "That's her," he whispered, his voice trembling. "That's exactly how she looked." I didn't have to say anything. We both saw her, the same child, the same figure, but we didn't know what to make of it. Was she our lost child, somehow returned to us? Or was she something darker, something far worse? The noise stopped. The crying, the knocking, the laughter, it all faded away, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. But that silence was no relief. It was worse. It was suffocating. We found something in the room, the pacifier, the one the girl had left behind. It sat there, untouched, in the center of the floor. I don't know if she was our daughter, lost and seeking us, or if she was something else, something more sinister. But her presence, Her beauty and her strange, terrifying energy will stay with me forever. She left her pacifier behind as if to remind us of what we lost or what we were never meant to have. The house felt different from the start. It wasn't just the creaks in the floorboards or the way the air always seemed just a little too cold. No, it was something deeper, an unsettling feeling that crawled under your skin when you weren't looking. My husband and I had moved in with hopes of starting fresh, escaping the memories that clung to our old place, but something about this house felt off. Nights, the door that seemed to creak open on its own, the smell of wet earth in the middle of a dry summer. But as the days went by, it grew worse. Every night, I heard the sound of soft footsteps behind me when no one was there. When I turned to look, there would be nothing but shadows. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, the temperature in the room plunging, and I'd feel an overwhelming sense of dread, as though something was watching us. Then came the baby's cries. At first, I thought I was just hearing things. I'd wake up to what sounded like a baby crying, but when I checked the crib, it was empty. The sound would echo through the house, piercing the silence, and I would find myself wandering through the dark halls, searching for the source. But there was nothing, just the silence. The strange noises didn't stop there. Sometimes I'd hear soft whispers in the hallway, in a language I couldn't understand. At times it was so faint, I thought it was my imagination. But then, when I focused, it would grow louder, clearer, more urgent. It was like a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. One night, the door to our bedroom swung open, and I froze, staring at it. My husband looked at me, confused. "Did you leave it open?" he asked. But I knew I hadn't. We had both locked it before going to bed. "Maybe we're just tired," he said, trying to brush it off. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling. The house felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something. And then, we saw her again. I froze. I couldn't speak. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt the cold sweat break out on my skin. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't obey. The girl didn't move. She just stared at me with eyes that seemed too old for such a young face. I blinked, and she was gone. My breath came in ragged gasps as I tried to convince myself it was just a dream. But I hadn't been asleep. I was wide awake. My husband turned his face to me. Now there was nothing, just a trick of the light. But as we were about to sleep, we heard her voice, soft and distant, but unmistakable. "Mom, Dad." I whipped around, and there she was again. The same girl, standing in the doorway, staring at us. This time my husband stirred. "What's going on?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too afraid to speak. When I finally managed to sit up, the girl was gone. My heart pounded in my ears, but I didn't dare look again. I couldn't. The fear was too much. But the next morning, it happened again. The door was open, and the girl was standing there, watching us. Her presence felt like a weight, an oppressive force that seemed to fill the room. This time my husband saw her, and when he did, he screamed, the terror in her eyes matching my own. The girl was gone before we could react, but that was enough. We couldn't stay in that house any longer. We had to leave, not just for our sanity, but for our safety. But as we packed, we found things that didn't belong to us. Half-drunk cups of tea in the kitchen, toys we hadn't bought, and the unmistakable sound of a baby's cry coming from the bedroom. When I went to check, there was nothing. Nothing except the feeling that we were no longer alone. We left that day. The house was empty, but the air still felt heavy, as though something lingered. The girl with the dark hair had left her mark, and we had to leave with it. But as we drove away, I saw something strange. In the rearview mirror, I glimpsed the shadow of a little girl waving goodbye. I couldn't tell if she was real or just a part of the memories I couldn't escape, but I knew one thing for sure. The house had been her home long before it was ours.